Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today, we're going deep into the life and times of Guo Pu, a name you might have bumped into in your research.
Right.
But trust me, this guy was way more than just a footnote.
Absolutely.
We've got biographies, we've got his work, poems, annotations, the whole shebang.
Yeah, he was quite prolific.
And we're going to find out why he still matters, like what makes him tick even now.
You know, what's interesting about Guo Pu is that he wasn't just a scholar. He was a poet, a linguist, even delved into the esoteric arts.
Oh, wow.
A true Renaissance man.
Okay, so let's break it down. He's living in China.
Right.
During the fall of the Western Jin Dynasty, early 4th century CE.
A time of immense change.
Total upheaval, forced migrations, talk about uncertainty.
Makes you wonder how that shaped his whole worldview. I mean, the turmoil of that period, the loss of home, the severing of ties to ancestral lands.
Right.
You have to wonder if that influenced his later fascination with themes of impermanence.
Huh. Interesting.
And that search for meaning.
It's a good point. So after all this traveling, he ends up in Jiang, which is in modern Jiangsu province. What was life like in Jiang back then?
Well, think melting pot, like a place in transition.
Ah, okay.
Big cultural shifts happening politically, too, after the collapse of the Western Jin. There was this energy of rebuilding, redefining identities. Probably had a big impact on the intellectual atmosphere Guo Pu found himself in.
Wow, so Guo Pu ends up in a place that's also going through major changes. That's fascinating. So who was he, really? We know he had some pretty important government jobs, even got to be an official at the Shengshu Bureau.
Yeah, prestigious stuff.
But at the same time, he was known to enjoy life's pleasures, maybe a bit too much at times.
The sources definitely paint a picture of a man who appreciated good time. He was known for his love of wine and the company of women.
We even have that story about his friend Gan Bao warning him about overindulging.
Right, calling it an axe that cuts down vitality.
Harsh, but...
But Guo Pu's response is telling.
What'd he say?
He basically said he wasn't afraid to live life to the fullest, because whatever he received was predetermined by fate.
Sounds like a bit of a conflict there, right? Between his Confucian duty and a more Taoist acceptance.
It's a fascinating tension, right? You see this push and pull between striving for order and accepting chaos. Maybe that reflects a broader tension in intellectual circles at the time.
It was a time of rebuilding, not just cities and stuff, but philosophies, too.
Exactly, like figuring out what it all meant. Maybe Guo Pu's life just embodies that whole struggle.
It's complex, that's for sure. And then we have that weird incident with Huan Yi, another official, who catches Guo Pu, well, let's just say, in a compromising position.
Oh yeah, that story. Huan Yi finds Guo Pu naked, holding a knife, in the middle of some kind of ritual.
Wild.
Some people say it just shows how eccentric he was, but others think it points to a deeper involvement in those esoteric practices.
Yeah, like there's more to it than meets the eye. And speaking of things not being what they seem, his skill in divination, it was well known, but it also led to his downfall.
Yeah, that's right. Back in 324 CE, Wang Dun, powerful general, had some rebellious ideas.
Oh, boy.
So he asks Guo Pu to predict the outcome of his planned uprising.
And?
Well, let's just say the results weren't in Wang Dun's favor. Not at all.
I bet that went over well.
As you can imagine, Wang Dun didn't take it too well, had Guo Pu executed.
Geez, talk about a cautionary tale, messing with powerful people and their destinies.
Right.
But even though he died tragically, Guo Pu's work was still recognized. Emperor Ming of Jin, he honored him with a posthumous title, even a memorial tomb at Chuanu Lake. And his son inherited a fancy title, too.
Yeah, shows you how important legacy and family were back then. Even though Guo Pu was executed, his intellectual contributions weren't forgotten.
It's like his ideas had a life of their own. So let's get to what really made Guo Pu stand out, his incredible body of work.
Oh yeah, it's not just the quantity, it's his approach to knowledge that's so fascinating.
Right.
Like, take his annotations on ancient texts.
Yeah.
They're not just explanations, they're insightful interpretations, adding a whole new layer of understanding to works, like the I Ching, the classic of mountains and seas, the songs of Chu.
So he wasn't just rehashing old stuff, he was actively engaging with it, bringing in his own knowledge and perspective.
Exactly. His annotations give us a glimpse into the intellectual world of 4th century China. He's tackling these complex concepts, breaking down language, offering cultural and historical insights that are still relevant to scholars today.
Wow, impressive. Like, how did he do that?
Well, for one thing, he used contemporary dialects to explain ancient terms.
Oh, clever.
Yeah, it was innovative for the time, bridging that gap between the past and the present.
Like a language detective, figuring out how words and ideas evolved over time.
Exactly.
Mm.
And he applied this same meticulous approach to the Fangyan, a book on regional dialects.
So he was all about the details, whether it was those ancient texts or the nuances of language.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that same attention to detail extended to the natural world. He even developed a system for classifying plants and animals.
Wow, so from dictionaries and dialects to the natural world, he was leaving his mark everywhere.
It's incredible, right? But then there's his involvement in the esoteric,
Oh, right, that other side.
where spirituality and intellect intertwine.
Yeah.
You were talking about that incident with Huan Yi earlier.
Yeah, the one where he's caught in the ritual.
It wasn't just some random funny story.
Right, right.
It actually points to a deeper interest in those occult practices.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, by the way, ran in the family, especially with the I Ching.
It's easy to forget that for them, back then, divination, all these practices weren't some weird fringe thing.
Right. Not
They
only,
were part of the intellectual scene, like totally mainstream.
absolutely. And for Guo Pu, they weren't separate from his scholarship. They were all part of this big puzzle, this quest to figure out the connections between the physical world
Yeah.
and the metaphysical, what we see and what we can't.
Makes sense, and it makes me think about his poetry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the guy was prolific, over 100 volumes of poetry and prose. The Book of Jin even calls him like the crown jewel of poetry during that whole Restoration era.
High praise.
Right, but it wasn't just like technically good.
No.
His poetry actually introduced a whole new genre, Yuxian Shi or wandering immortal poems.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they explore themes of immortality, transcendence, that kind of spiritual stuff.
I wonder why that genre popped up during such a crazy time in history.
Yeah. Like, was it a way for people to cope, find some peace amidst all the chaos?
Maybe it was a kind of escape,
Right.
a way to imagine a world beyond all the upheaval.
Maybe they were looking for something timeless and eternal because their reality felt so impermanent.
Makes you think about the power of art, right? To provide comfort and meaning when things are tough.
Totally. And speaking of finding meaning, we got to talk about Guo Pu's contributions to Feng Shui, which brings us back to that Book of Burial. It's basically the Feng Shui Bible, right?
Yeah, you could say that. It all revolves around this idea of qi, this vital energy, this life force
Right.
that flows through the landscape and impacts everything.
Wow.
Human health, prosperity, family fortunes, even whole dynasties.
So it's about finding the right balance, the harmony between us and the environment.
Exactly. The goal is to find those sweet spots,
Hmm.
the auspicious locations for tombs and homes, where you can tap into that good qi and avoid the bad vibes.
Okay, I'm following you. But how does that actually work, like practically?
So imagine you're building a house.
Okay.
Feng Shui says the placement in relation to the mountains, rivers, even the neighbors.
Wow, okay.
That all affects the flow of qi.
Hmm.
For example, if your house has a mountain at its back and a clear view in front, that's ideal. It symbolizes support and opportunity.
So you're working with the natural energy, not against it.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that everything's connected
Right.
and making choices that align with that underlying energy.
It's amazing how these ideas from centuries ago
Yeah.
still resonate with people today. Why do you think Feng Shui has lasted so long?
It's a good question. Maybe it gives people a sense of agency in a world that often feels random and unpredictable. Like you can actually influence your life by making choices
right.
that are in tune with the natural flow of energy.
And it's empowering, right? Instead of feeling helpless, you can actually shape your environment and your destiny.
It gives you a framework for understanding your place in the world, making choices that lead to harmony and well-being. It connects you to something bigger.
We've covered so much. Ancient texts, dialects, the esoteric stuff, now Feng Shui. It's clear Guo Pu had a lot going on.
Yeah.
A real deep thinker.
He embodied that intellectual curiosity, the pursuit of knowledge in all forms.
So what would you say is the most important lesson we can take away from Guo Pu's story?
I think it's that even when things are uncertain, when there's turmoil,
Right.
seeking knowledge and understanding can be a source of strength and resilience. It can give you meaning.
So even when the world's falling apart around you, there's something empowering about pursuing knowledge.
Absolutely. When we seek, we don't just find information.
Yeah.
We find a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe. It's a journey of discovery, and Guo Pu's life is a perfect example of that.
For me, he was a bridge builder.
Yeah.
Connecting the past and the present, the seen and the unseen,
Absolutely.
the physical and the metaphysical. What about you? What resonates most with you about his story?
I'm drawn to his unwavering curiosity. He wasn't afraid to explore all these seemingly different areas, connect the dots, find patterns in the universe.
Makes you think someone from the 4th century and his ideas still resonate today.
It's that human element, you know? We're all trying to figure things
Yeah.
out, looking for meaning. It's timeless.
Thinking about everything we've learned about Guo Pu,
Yeah.
I wonder what he'd think of the world today. I mean, he was such a connector, bridging all these different fields.
Right. The true polymath. He embraced both tradition and innovation.
Uh-huh.
Makes you wonder how he'd react to all our technology,
Right.
the internet, artificial intelligence.
Would he be blown away? Would he see it as a way to understand the universe even better?
Or would he be cautious?
Hmm.
Worried about losing touch with nature, the things that really matter?
Like he'd be reminding us not to get lost in the digital world.
Exactly. He was all about balance, finding harmony between the seen and the unseen.
Yeah.
Maybe he'd want us to find that same balance with technology.
It's like he's still pushing us to keep searching, keep asking questions.
Absolutely.
To do it with wisdom and curiosity, just like he did.
And remember, the pursuit of knowledge is really a journey of self-discovery.
It is, isn't it? It's been a fascinating journey exploring Guo Pu's life and legacy.
Sure.
Scholar, poet, master of esoteric arts, a true pioneer.
He really shows us what the human mind is capable of when we embrace curiosity.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Guo Pu.
Yeah, hope you sparked some curiosity.
Maybe you'll even check out some of his work or dig a little deeper into these themes.
Keep those minds curious.
And keep exploring. Until next time.